it's out of your control. It's out of your control. And so you got to have faith in that process and the things that you're doing. And if you need to take a step back and make a couple changes and then re-engage into whatever it is that you're doing, like, no factor, right? But, have faith in yourself, have faith in the process. And
I mean, hold your horses.
can you dive into that for me?
I don't think that's what's next in line for me there, Mr. Divin.
You might be surprised.
Dude, I was thinking about it today really heavily, actually. Like, I found myself listening to a whole lot. I was driving around a lot. Had to make some deliveries at work and stuff. And
Deliveries.
Deliveries.
Why are you making deliveries?
I don't know. I'm a pizza boy or something. But no.
For fence material?
Yeah, that's right. My boys, my craft workers, my guys, my team, they were not in office today. So I got to be delivery boy, deliver some fence panels and such to a job site. I was listening to Cody Johnson just running around and
To Kojo? The one and only.
And a lot of cowboy songs in the old Kojo playlist.
Mm-hmm.
It got me to thinking, man. I was reminiscing on a lot of the old times. And then I thought about the analogy I used in the last episode with the cow pens. And I was like, dude, we need to just buy a horse.
Come on, man.
We need to just get a horse. And me and Div can go do some pasture opens. And
I saw you can come join me, dude.
man, I got real close today.
As a matter of fact, we got space.
That's perfect. I was running the calculations on if the old Taco would be able to pull a stock trailer with a pony in the back.
Hey,
or
we've
not.
had that sucker loaded down, screaming down that highway.
Dang right, it hauled some fence panels today. I tell you what. Oh man,
Dang, dude.
it's been a day though, man.
Just a day.
It's been a week. I'll say that, but
Yeah.
today especially, man. And then like it just snowballed. It was one of them days. Like I started making some popcorn, and my popcorn maker rotates a little bit, so I wasn't paying attention to it, and
Burnt.
no, it didn't burn.
Oh, okay.
No, I was so stoked about this popcorn though. It's one of the air poppers that blows the popcorn out the top. So it didn't really have a chance to burn. But what it does is it rotates away from your bowl and just dumps like 3/4 of your popcorn on the ground for your dog to eat.
I was going to say, so, I mean, it's all perspective, man. Bad for you because you lost popcorn, but good for the dogs.
Good for Sam Dog. She loves some popcorn.
Good for Sambo over there. Good for Axel Pup. And saved you some pointless calories.
That's right. Well, popcorn's not terrible for you. Remember Average Mike's video where he ate nothing but popcorn for 2 days or a day? You can make it without it.
I mean, it's all relative too then, I guess, right?
That's right. It's all relative perspective.
What is the protein count on some popcorn?
Fiber count's high.
I don't care about I care about fiber, but what's the protein count?
It's not. I mean, you gotta.
What is the fat count on that?
With some of the spray. Well, actually, the spray I put on there's not bad either. I don't know
so now
about-
you're adding to the popcorn.
I am, but it's like 0 calorie, nothing. Now the additives in it probably kill me, but I don't know. But regardless, the popcorn dumped all over the ground, and then I was like, man, I'm not in a good place. I need a little pick me up. So I was like, I'm gonna take some amino energy. I was gonna dump some powder in my water and just get like 100 milligrams of caffeine real quick. And I was looking down at it and dumped it in there, and powder shot up and got in my eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like
shift your perspective a little bit.
shift my perspective. So if I'm like coked out in this podcast, it's because I got straight up amino energy pre-workout in my eye straight to the bloodstream.
That's fine. I'm thriving off of some Jocko Go right now, homie. So
Okay.
You don't want the heat.
We're gonna have to do some activities. Hey, we did do some activities before we started this. We had some pull-ups.
So you talking about them weird pull-ups?
I was messing around with some pull-ups in the gym. Divin walked up to the garage. You come into our house through the garage, and I'm sitting there hanging from a pull-up rack, and I was like messing with it, and I did a wide grip pull-up, and I was like, wait a second, what if you do a chin-up, so reverse grip, like underhanded pull-up, wide? It is incredibly difficult. And it is also,
Because it's all straight freaking forearm after.
I felt like my joints were going to just snap. It's like my wrist, yeah.
Man, we're already recovering your ankle. We don't need to recover some other stuff that's going on.
No, we
Speaking
really
of, how was your bike ride yesterday?
Shut up. Why you gotta go there? Oh man, me and bikes have a love-hate relationship. I haven't been able to keep a tire on a bike in years, man. I was recovering from this ankle, so I was like, oh, I'll go on a nice bike ride. So I go on a 20-mile bike ride, and I was like, man, I'm cruising. We're good. Ain't nothing going wrong. I had a flat tire when I started the bike ride, so I popped a new tube into that tire, and I was like, man, we're set. We're ready to go. And I get 2 miles from the house, mile and a half, 2 miles, something like that.
How many miles into this bike ride are you?
18 miles into the bike ride.
It's a little ways.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, just I hear a rattling noise and I blew the tube out the back tire. Front tires are still good to go. Blew the tube out the back tire. So I'm sitting there pedaling, and I'm on the phone with you. I called you to tell you about my luck, and you're sitting there breathing hard in the phone doing squats in the gym. And I'm sitting there pedaling as hard as I can with a flat tire going 2 miles an hour. Trying not to fall
Your car is flying
over.
by.
Dude, it was... When I say it's been a week, it's been a week. All right?
So, let me ask you this. All right?
Yeah.
You've had some unexpected deliveries, right?
Yeah.
For work.
Yeah.
You've you've overcome some obstacles on the bike side of things.
Yeah. Cycling and me don't mix. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some opportunities that you came across this week that you're able to power through?
Opportunities to power through. Well, I had an urge to throw a popcorn maker across the house earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Had the urge to recycle a bike in a very aggressive way. And I chose not to do either of those things.
Yeah.
Also I had some tough meetings at work too, and some changes at work too. I don't want to dive into that, but it's just more challenging.
Let me reframe the question. I apologize.
Come on.
What were some big takeaways from the opportunities that you worked through this week? Is that better?
I think the biggest takeaway for me, and what I'm starting to realize now, and why I'm not in as bad of a mood as I was earlier, like honestly about a couple hours ago.
Still a little bit now.
A little bit now. I'm a little salty with my reverse pull-ups for punishment, but I guess the biggest takeaway is the problems that I have are only as big as I make them. And I was giving them way too much, and I still do. I mean, it's real easy if you're somebody that cares too much about things or cares too much about the results of things or perspective of other people on you, then it's real easy to make things in life bigger than what they truly are. So you got all these problems, you got all these things, and you realize that nobody else is putting the pressure on you, but you're putting the weight on yourself, per se. And yeah, there's some external stuff, but if you don't let those things get to you, I mean, what does it really matter?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't give them that weight, then what impact does it have?
Yeah, it's like giving something power over you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate that question.
I just wanted you to kind of think through that.
Thank you very much. See, Lane's really the brain behind this thing, honestly. He's the more developed of the two of us.
I don't know about that.
I'm more
man.
raw over here.
Same thing with me though. I go through and there's a lot of things that I make it a bigger deal internally than what it really is. And whenever you take a step back and you're just like, man, does this really matter? Like, no, I mean, shoot, it's a good opportunity. Maybe I needed to stretch out my ankle on the 2 mile ride back from the house because the back tire blew out.
Fair.
You know?
Yeah, maybe so. A little opportunity.
Instead of just been like, well, crap, man, I just blew out another tire and now I got a 2 mile walk back to the house. I don't know. I mean, it's all perspective, dude.
It is. I mean, that's good. It's a good perspective too. I like it a lot. And it kind of reminds me too. I had a couple points I drew up, just like things I was thinking about during the week, and one of them was like evaluating why I was so stressed about things.
Mm-hmm.
And a big takeaway from that for me was I'm spending more time doing things that I'm required to do or that I have to do rather than doing things that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that plays into it some too, because it's like you can get in your head real quick. Like I was running time evaluations in my head, and I was like, man, what does my daily schedule look like? And right now what it looks like is wake up at 4:30. I read the Bible for about 30 to 45 minutes with a cup of coffee. And I get up and work out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finish working out, cook breakfast for Lane and myself. Wife Lane, not Lane Diven here.
I was like, dang, man, you're holding out on me over
I
here.
know, I've been telling you. No, but
You said my name, but it sounds like you're just taking it in for yourself.
I know, I said your name and breakfast, and you got all excited over there.
Hey, I like my eggs.
I know you do. Cast iron, baby. But no, I do that and then get ready for work and go. And then I'm at work for however many hours, and my commute's like an hour 10, hour 15 each way with traffic. And so it makes for a long day. And by the time I get home, I get like, I'm realizing, because my daughter takes a nap in the evening too. And by the time we really get into it, I get 3 solid hours with her.
Mm-hmm.
And close to about the same with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you can really get in your head about that real quick.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of that though too is like, what does that 3 hours look like? Because
agreed.
you know a lot of folks, if I'm gonna go out on a limb here, I think it's a pretty thick limb.
It needs to be thick. Oh,
What
Divin
are you saying, man?
You're the thick ultra runner over there, baby.
But you know, a lot of people, you know, that they come home and there's no intentionality once they get there, right? Come home, kind of hungry, probably throw something in the microwave to eat or cook something up real quick for dinner. And then, you know, you chill out on the couch for 2 hours watching Netflix and then go to bed.
Get up and do it all over again.
Yeah, man. And not to say that we aren't guilty of that too, because there's definitely nights like it's just don't feel like doing anything else. So what's something easy to do? Just throw on a show that you're liking, and then, you know, you have a little bit of conversation, but nothing real deep or anything, nothing to help really build that relationship, right? But, you know, whenever you have more intentionality behind those hours, then I feel like it kind of makes that time stretch a little bit, if that makes sense. It adds a lot more value to it. So it's like, yeah, I'm getting these 3 hours, but dang, like conversations we're having during these 3 hours, the goal. I mean, if you have these conversations, like, you know, the goals that we're working towards. Here's some stuff that I'm working towards. Here's some stuff that you're working towards, right? And just making sure that you're aligning those pathways, or I mean, even just taking a step back and just listening, like just being a solid listener to our wives or to our friends or whoever it is that you're spending that time with in the evening, right? That holds a lot of weight, holds a lot of value.
That's fair. That's a really good point, man. And I think, yeah, in its own weird way, because it takes energy to do all those things, right? It does to
absolutely, yeah,
to be intentional with that time, but it's also a recharge in a lot of ways too.
Yeah.
All right, so it's a recharging your batteries by spending the time where you enjoy to spend the time,
mm-hmm.
right? And in the relationships you enjoy spending the time in. So, yeah, that's been kind of a mantra here lately with me too. I'm trying to be way more intentional. It's weird. I've been catching myself on my phone whenever I'm here, and I'll be like, man, you were upset about not being able to be here and be with your daughter. So, like, get off your phone,
Mm-hmm.
get down there and play with your daughter.
I think it's so easy to get wrapped up into your phone too.
Oh, dude, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
So, you know, throughout the day, you know, here and there, if I'm on like my lunch break or something like that, like I'll go pop open like Facebook or Instagram or whatever. You know, those are things that definitely occupy some of my time throughout the day, right? And probably more than I'd really like for it to. But dude, TikTok, I have that app hidden so that it's like not ever in the front of my mind, or like I have to like physically like want to go to TikTok. It's like 3 pages deep on a file on my on my thing, because I know that as soon as I open TikTok, like dude, I mean, I'm like, oh, I'll be like, okay, it's 7:45. I have till 8, and then 8 will roll around. Like, that's only like 4 videos. Let me keep on scrolling through, and before you know it, you're like 2 hours deep into that sucker, man. And it is easy to get down some rabbit holes on TikTok.
It is, dude. Like on all sides, dude. Conspiracy theories, like
That's precisely what I'm talking about.
but even more than that to today's media, like learning stuff, like even the educational historical side, like everything links together, and then like the crappier side with lust and all that.
Yeah.
Like things that are meant to engage you and catch you too.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know, man. It is a rabbit hole overall.
It truly is. It truly is. And again, you know, I'm speaking. You know, I do all the same things. But it's also one of those things like catching it, just like all this other stuff, right? Catching it, recognizing it, and be like, oh, here's an opportunity for me to really pull back and like, okay, what do I really want to do at this time?
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I mean, what are some other things that you're doing to kind of mitigate time loss per se, or to have more intentionality with all your time?
One thing me and my wife were actually doing and investigating, mine is having some issues. I don't know if my phone needs an update or what, but screen time on our phones, implementing limits on apps and things like that. That's been in the same ballpark. I know some other things we were wanting to talk about, but like that's been one of the big ones that helped us out with TikTok and Facebook and all those. Instagram especially. I know Instagram's a tough one for my wife because she's here with the baby all day, and she'll get sucked into mom videos on Instagram and reels and stuff, and be real deep into it before too long, and she'll be like, wow, like I didn't, all this time has passed, kind of thing.
4 hours later.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just 8 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly. And but yeah, being more intentional with the phone is a huge one, man. One of the other ones, and man, I don't know, it's hard to do this one, but setting boundaries, like when 5 o'clock rolls around, like I try to, unless it's something that is most likely really pressing based on who's calling.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to get a hold of me, man. I got certain people that can come through that little screening process of my own in my head, but it's real hard to get me to dive onto my phone for any reason after 5 o'clock, because I looked the other day and my notifications, I get like 500 text messages a day or something like that, and then I get like phone calls. I can fill up my call log in a day with calls going in and out for work. I am constantly on that sucker. Yeah. So peace of mind and getting away from that stressor, because it is a big stressor for me. Getting away from that is putting my phone down and stepping away from it and being intentional with compartmentalizing my time, right? Yeah. Like I'm here with family. This is my personal life. This is even running. Like I'm here to run. I'm here to free myself a little bit. Like I don't need to be on the phone with people. I don't need to be texting people. I don't need to be worrying about what's going on. I just need to be worried about all these cars trying to hit me with a flat tire on my bike. You know, that's what I'm worried about right now. So that's one thing I do.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
What about you?
Shoot, dude. I have my schedule down pat pretty much.
Yeah.
Like I'm one of those individuals where I have a process for everything, and my routine is my routine, right? You know, for me, if I'm running in the morning, I'm up at 3:45, and
you just had to beat my 4:30, didn't you? I'm joking.
Man, I mean 3:45. That is the earliest I will go. 3:45. Yeah. I mean that's already so early.
That is pushing it.
If I'm need to be up earlier than that, then I need to kind of reconsider some things.
Yeah. Too much on the plate.
Yeah. I mean, as it is, you know, sleep is also a priority of mine. So, you know, especially for us and our training and everything, you know, that recovery is so vital, right? And so, making sure that that you know proper sleep and everything on that end is squared away. So, you know, though I'm up at 3:45. I'm also in bed by 8:30.
Yeah.
8:30, 9 o'clock at the absolute latest, usually. unless there's some extenuating circumstance or you just got tied up with work or whatever it may be. But yeah, dude, I mean, 3:45, I'm usually back, cooking breakfast, ready to roll for work about 5:30, leaving to work, 6:15ish. And then, after that, it just kind of depends on work itself, right?
For sure.
What I love though is that for me, I have very specific duties that I need to make sure that I capitalize on, every single day at work, right? Go through, make sure I'm knocking it out. And, if there's some big opportunities there, then obviously to kind of push that envelope and knock it out a little bit more, right?
For sure.
But with that too, I also have the freedom of, once I take care of those things, like I have that freedom to then kind of free up my schedule and kind of, I don't know, manipulate it how I want to, I guess.
Yeah.
And so usually for me, 5 o'clock for sure. I mean, I'm usually, trying to be intentional and present and stuff going on at the house. So
makes a lot of sense.
I don't know, man. For me, it's also once I find like a routine that I like, I can go through and start figuring out how to truly maximize my time through that routine and really make that process more efficient. And then going through that, I'm able to implement more things and take care of my guys how I need to and stuff like that for work. And also allows me to take care of stuff personally as I need to as well. So,
has it gotten harder to maintain? Because you are a routine-driven person. You've always been since I've known you. Has it been harder to do that now that you've got, like, the job changes a little bit here and there, but you got a wife as well. You got Charlie, the horse, to take care of out there. Have you seen a change in your ability to maintain a schedule, or has it just made you more rigid in that process?
Dude, that's a good question. I think overall it's probably made me more rigid to the discipline of maintaining a schedule in some type of way, if that makes sense.
It does.
But being adaptable as those changes come.
Yeah, because there's more curveballs that can be thrown.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's just realizing, like, though this is when I should dedicate this time to, like, okay, I got to move some things around to make this work instead. And it's also realizing, like, your priorities on that list that you have is going to kind of be dictated by certain things outside going on too. You know what I mean? So
I do, and I agree with you, because one of the biggest things that I always hear people talk about whenever we talk about, like, anything, especially fitness, of course, and diets and stuff, is man, we got kids, it's hard to do all that. But now that we have a kid, I understand the strain. It is hard. But man, having a routine and being rigid with it, like, that's about the only way I can survive.
Yeah.
Right? So it's give and take. I mean,
I think it's like making sure that you're using your time purposely, which ties all the way back around, right?
For sure.
Making sure that you're intentional with what you're doing. We've had this conversation a few times, especially me and my wife. We've had this conversation too. It's like, dude, I wish I had 36 hours in a day. If I had 36 hours in a day, I would probably be able to do all the things that I wanted to.
Yeah.
So, it's just making sure, I have a couple non-negotiables, right?
For sure.
So obviously, this can be, first and foremost, me and my wife, that relationship there. Obviously a non-negotiable for me too is my workouts and making sure I'm disciplined in that. And then, same thing with us diving into scripture too. That's something that I'm still figuring out where I can best implement it to where it's most impactful during my schedule, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And that's something too that, I struggle with at times because, for me, it's like I can read at night, but whenever I read the Bible at night, I feel like I lose the the potential to kind of ponder on it throughout the day, right?
I know what you mean there. Yeah.
Because like you go through, read scripture, and you go to bed, and it's like cool, okay, on to the next thing the next morning. You know what I mean? And so, which obviously you can mitigate that by going through and rereading it, and continually just kind of diving into that same piece of scripture and making sure that you're getting what you can from it. The other way is to move when I am reading the Bible. So reading in the morning, you get to have that special time with God, and dude, I love early mornings though.
I do too.
I
do too.
Like every morning, I do get up. I'll get up first alarm. Go turn it off. I have to have it across the room because then I won't get up. That's a good. There's a pro tip for y'all.
Pro tip for getting up at 3:45.
Have your alarm across the room, and I think part of it's too is because if Kendall hears it, I'd probably be a little nervous. But no, I mean, I just how, like, I don't know, peaceful, I guess, and just like the complete like solitude that you have in the morning that early, and just like calmness, I guess, out on the road or on the trail or just in the house when everybody else is still asleep. Like it's still hard waking up, but once I'm up, a couple minutes later, like actually awake, like I truly found myself really enjoying that time. So
there's a beauty in not being able to be disturbed.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, not to dive off.
I guess it's like the no distraction, like literally no distractions.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, it literally is. And you can still get tangled up in your phone early in the morning if you're not careful with it too. But I find it's easier to be intentional about that because it's like, okay, I woke up this early. Like, I'm not going to waste my time on my phone whenever I'm making myself like drag my butt out of bed to go across the room, turn off the alarm, and now I'm up. So let's do something productive with it.
Yeah.
And in scripture, I mean, all throughout, we're reading Matthew. I'm reading and studying in Luke as well. But all in Scripture, you hear Jesus several different times goes away in solitude to be with the Father and to pray by himself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of a role that plays, and it sets an example. And then I think it's kind of telling in a way that there's a certain peace and serenity and something you get out of that time alone and studying and working, doing that deep work, if you will, by yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're out there and you're not diving into Scripture, just like having just that peace and solitude to yourself in the mornings, like it's probably one of my favorite times in the day.
Yeah, it could be a cup
of just gets you going on the right path.
It could be a cup of coffee just sitting on the porch or mm-hmm. in the dining room. Yeah, there's something different about it for sure. It hits way different.
Yeah. Another thing too, for my runs and everything, like I don't listen to music, podcasts or books or anything, and I didn't realize how crazy that is, I guess.
Yeah. You tell somebody that and they're like freak
nah.
out. Yeah. Like, why even do it?
But I mean, again, for me, it's just like so meditative, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, especially at that time, you're just able to just reflect and dive into some things that you're just having to process through your mind or whatever, and it just gives you peace, man. I really enjoy it.
I agree with you, and I've gotten to where I'll do more of podcasts and things like that while I'm running, mm-hmm. but it's really if my mind is already going berserk and just I need something just to
kind of ground you.
Yeah, I'll do that. But I even get to a point, like if I'm deep into a run or a race, like sometimes I'll put them in at the end of the race as a distraction for the same reason. But most of the time, if I start a run with a podcast, by the end of it, I'm like 3/4 of the way through or halfway through the run, I'm turning it off
Yeah.
Because it is like it's taken away from the meditative time, and I've got so much going on in my head, and I'm thinking about all these things in life and processing things that I wouldn't be able to otherwise in peace, to the point of it's like, nah, this podcast or music's just a distraction, so I need to cut it off.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think so.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. It's, I guess, coming full circle. I feel like, just our schedules in general is something that we're always going to be just continually refining, and just, as things come up and as new things are introduced to our lives, right? I mean, those priorities may change a little bit, and so I think the biggest takeaway from this is just making sure that you're being intentional with your time, because we do only have 24 hours in a day. And for me,
not 36.
I wish there was. But I mean, for me, it's like wake up at 3:45. I'm in bed by 8:30, 8:45. I'm really typically not asleep until like 9:15, based on what my watch says, right? So I'm getting 6.5 hours of sleep a day. And so, what I'm doing with those other 18 hours plus or minus a little bit, I feel like I'm maximizing my day for the most part. But even then, it's like I'll catch myself coming home, and if I'm not disciplined in that moment, like I got stretches I'm supposed to be doing every evening, right? And sometimes I'll put those off for 20, 30 minutes. I'm just sitting there scrolling. It's like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
It's just so easy to just get wrapped up in it, man. I don't know. It's all a process.
It is. It is. Now, something you are doing in those 6.5 hours is you're recovering.
Yeah.
Which brings to mind our recovery partner.
Mm-hmm.
We got to make sure we mention old Axis Recovery over here. I think we're on that camera. Hey, by the way, if y'all are watching this and y'all got the camera system up here watching on YouTube and you see what we're doing, let us know what you like about this. If you like the way this whole thing looks, the new camera set and all that. Mm-hmm. What I did there was I showed off this old Axis Recovery hat, though, that we have over in Conroe, Texas. We got 2 professionals over there running the shop.
We do, man. We got old CB, the Clydesdale, Mr. Chris Barnes.
That's right.
And he's actually training for Leadville.
He is.
Officially training for Leadville now, right?
He is, yeah. They're actually, Axis has been dropping some cool content on that.
Yeah.
Just kind of talking about the process, why and how, and all that good stuff.
And then the other one, the old show pony.
That's right. That's right.
That's right, Kyle. I'm calling you out, man.
That's right. All them muscles. Old Kyle.
Kyle Rogers.
Man,
that dude is a stud.
He is. He's a cool cat too, and he's been doing a lot of educational content on that page too. So
yeah,
whether you're in the Conroe area and you're able to go get some contrast therapy in the form of commercial grade saunas, cold plunges, Normatec boots, rolling ability, stretching areas, things like that. Whether you can go do that, or whether you just want to keep up with a page that has amazing resources for you to be able to do some of this stuff on your own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Axis Recovery is a great place to start and a great resource for you in your recovery needs. Those guys are athletes themselves. They do this stuff. They do a lot of stuff. CrossFit, ultra running, general weightlifting, health and fitness stuff.
List goes on. So
yeah, it does. Make sure you check those guys out, and mention if you go over there, if you get a chance to stop in the neighborhood of Conroe, mention Next in Line Sent You By for 10% off of your visit. So,
absolutely, man. I saw on their shoot, man. What's it called? Their story.
Yep.
Obviously, Chris is training for Leadville, but it said something about Kyle possibly training for a race as well. Is that right? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about that.
Okay.
I don't.
And I could have just misread it or misinterpreted it.
I think put it out there in the world. Put it on him, man.
Come on, Kyle. What you training for, man?
Get with it, old son. He got that 50K under his belt.
He does, dude. They were posting pictures of that earlier, too. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that.
Good old Brazos Bend.
Brazos Bend 50. You had somebody in your network over there, too, knock out an old race, right?
We did, man. Old Zach Shackelford, dude. Got out there. knocked out the Austin half marathon, man.
That's pretty wild. You said he's not.
That is a big old boy right there.
That's
Let
not
me
what
tell
you'd
you.
expect to see running the.
So we tell Chris we call Chris Barnes a Clydesdale, right?
Yeah.
Old Shack Attack was on the O line for UT.
Yeah.
He got drafted by the NFL, and
Holy smokes.
that's a big boy running half marathon. And on top of that, just to speak to his athletic abilities, knocked that sucker out in under 2 hours.
That's pretty dang quick.
Yeah.
Especially for that size. Just in general, but especially for that size.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know what excuses we got floating out there in the atmosphere was why we're not hitting our goals, but we can throw them suckers in the trash.
Too much zone 2 training.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I like that zone 5 training. You know me.
I know you do. But I know that I was joking about that. But I will say I am thoroughly impressed and surprised by like all the zone 2 training that we've been doing.
That's
Me
right.
and my coach, man. It's been pretty surprising. And like even going through hammering down out on the roads, like this is gonna sound obvious, but I can go a lot faster, a lot further, barely breathing. Like heart rate's still super low, and it's just from all the consistent, lower heart rate runs. It's been pretty crazy. So.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I'm extremely happy for you, and I'm still very excited about hearing what races you end up deciding to get under your belt here this year.
You want to bring it up, huh?
Man, we'll dive into it, but we don't have to do it. We do have somebody in our network that signed up for a race though here this past week.
Yeah,
made it official.
Old Billy Joggins.
Yeah. My dad Billy Pitts signed up.
Cowboy 200?
Cowboy 200. Nebraska in September, man. 200 miles across the old railway up there. It's the time constraints on it are pretty tight.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a task, but man, he's got a good coach.
Yeah.
He's got a good team around him, and man, we're excited.
Oh yeah, dude.
Plenty of time.
I'm excited to get on up there, man, and see him do his thing. It's always been inspiring, watching him go through and just get out there and hammer it, dude. I don't know if you realize this, but his 100-mile race last year was just a handful of days ago.
The 1 year anniversary of it. Yeah.
Yep. And like just thinking back to that time and just the atmosphere whenever we're getting close to that cutoff line and getting him across the finish line all hunched over and everything, and dude, it was just one of the most inspiring things like I've ever seen and two been a part of.
Oh man, yeah, it was insane, man, to see. And I got a different perspective than everyone. It's all perspective, but different perspective.
You nailed it.
Than everybody else, because I was out there on that whole last loop with him.
Yeah.
And man, to see him go from moving so well to just be like roadblock, stopped in his tracks, and then starting to get it broke free again and feeling like he had no chance, and like going through every single emotion in the book within a couple of hours. It is just. And then things you can't explain along the way as to people offering trekking poles and like different things like that. I
think it goes to show that there's a bigger plan than what we got.
Amen. No, I couldn't agree with you more. That's where I was going to go with it too. And man,
I still
it was crazy.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we were sitting there at the dang camp because we all have everybody on Life 360 here in our group.
That's right.
So we're sitting there and we're like, oh, he's only got 3 miles. We got plenty of time, and he just stopped.
Uh-huh.
And then 30 minutes goes by, barely moved any. It's like, oh man, what's going on over here?
It was bad.
And it's just incredible. It's just the epitome of why we go out there and do these things, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I agree, man.
But either way, wrapping back up, Cowboy 200, man, that's going to be freaking exciting adventure. So
yeah, it'll be a good one. Adding it to the list of all the other awesome races we got going between Leadville, Cocodona, Cowboy 200, and
West
no telling
Texas
what else.
Ultra.
Oh yeah, West Texas Ultra.
West Texas Ultra.
What? When? Where? How long?
Uh, so that'll be April 13th.
April 13th.
April 13th up in the Panhandle.
It's coming up.
It's going to be a good old 50K running around Lake Meredith.
50K.
50K.
All right.
I'm going to knock out my first official running 50K since the Spartan 50K Ultra didn't count. I mean, it does, but
It's
different.
Straight 50K. I got you. I'm with you. I hear you. Fair enough.
Yeah, man. So that's coming up. I'm pretty excited for it, though. It'll be a good time.
I'm excited for you, dude.
Training has been going super well so far for me.
Yeah.
Every week we've been, right where I think we need to be on where we're pushing that envelope a little bit. I'm still, I recover super well throughout the week for the most part, especially Fridays. It's a day off before my long run, essentially, right? And it's been a good process for me so far. I haven't battled any injuries yet. Haven't had any just weird things outside of being in denial about my shoe preference, but
yeah. Topo's still giving you some blisters or what?
man, a little bit, but
Okay.
still holding out. We're only 150 miles deep into them. They'll be broke in maybe after tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure, man. It'll come around.
No, it's one of those things. I don't know. Maybe if I change out the insoles, I don't know if that'll actually help anything because it's still a structure of the shoe. But we'll see.
Kenny Rogers, is that what you got to know when to hold him?
Oh, okay.
No, karaoke time?
Are we going to karaoke?
We
Is
might.
that what you're saying?
No, I don't know, man. I know you love them, and I know you love the idea of them, but
But it didn't fail me out there at Georgia. My
the
goats.
goats, baby, the old Hokas. Old Hokas coming back at you.
I know. It's one of those things. It's like I want to go try like the best new thing that's out there, which topos aren't new or the best thing out there, but it's something new to us, right? Nobody except for Ashley in our group wears them.
Oh, they're super enticing based off of the information she gave us too.
Yeah.
So I
think it's just my foot structure, man.
think it's foot structure, man. They're the good shoes, long lasting, durable, but it's not a fit, man.
It ain't for me, I guess.
Ugh. Shame.
Debatable. We'll see.
Yeah.
But no, I'm sorry, man.
Take your shoes off. We'll debate. Show me them blisters.
But yeah, no, first official 50K West Texas Ultra, sponsored by directed by Texas Outlaw Running Co.
There you
go. Which, speaking of, we're hopefully gonna be getting that fella on here, right?
Yeah, I need to reach back out. I've let it slip a little bit, but I need to get him scheduled on here and get an interview going. We got a few people that we'd like to get on here and really dive into. I think we got a few lined up that we need to actually spend the time and just do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It hasn't been part of our regular schedule and our regular regimen that we have planned every single day. Yeah, so it slips to the back, becoming an extra amount of work and stuff. And we need to do it.
No,
so
I agree. But
it's been on me more than you, so we'll get after it.
Either way, man, that should be a good time. I know that you had a good time out there at the Frio Trail Run.
Yeah, good folks.
So I'm looking forward to getting up into the Panhandle. It's some old stomping grounds for me. And up there too, man. One, it's a dry heat, and it's gonna be some pretty scenery out there. Be a change of pace from here again, and I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good.
I'm excited for you, man. I think that'll be something that will be. You've been striving for this for a while. You've been optimistic about it, and it's been in your sights for a long time. And I think it'll be something that is a greater sense of accomplishment for you in a way, because you've been so eager to hit it for so long. And man, I know you're going to keep going. So it's going to check a box, but it ain't going to check the box,
No, I'm leaving that box of mystery right now.
Oh, yeah, I know you are. We'll leave it alone. But, hey, we got something. We got commitment out of old Lane Divin. Now we just got to get them to sign up on old Ultra sign up.
Yeah, that we do.
There we go.
But that's what we're looking at right now. So, cool, man. Well,
Heck yeah.
what else is going on, dude?
Man, only other thing I really got is we dove into a little bit of Matthew 8 here this week. And I know we've been kind of talking about life a whole lot in this one, but I I know we discussed it, and it's kind of more of a brief chapter, and it's one of those that I mean, we were able to go into depth on some stuff, but it was something that I struggled a little bit with going as deep as I wanted to, and maybe that's just a personal thing, but I think maybe taking some time just to talk through it and take some points that we had and some different things, but just maybe talking about life a little bit with it this go around and just working through it a little bit if you're interested in such things. Unless you got something else we need to run through.
Dude, let's hit it. You're not alone on this one. I was going through it, and not that I was necessarily taking it for face value, because since we've started being super intentional with all this stuff, I try to make sure I'm getting everything I can from it, obviously, right? And I also feel like at times you're gonna get more from pieces of these chapters, depending on where you're at in your life and stuff like that too. And so I feel like maybe that could be some of it.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side of it too, I don't know, man. It was just kind of I was just kind of grasping during this chapter, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah.
You weren't alone on that one. So
I appreciate that. I mean, I think we're kind of both in the same place, but I think that's going to give us an interesting point to work from too, though.
Yeah, just kind of in general, I think, kind of from like an overhead type of view. One of the big things that I took away from it is that it's just kind of like a reflection of just like the power of who he is and the power that he has, right? He's going through performing some miracles, healing a man with leprosy, and just that alone is pretty wild. But as you get towards the end of the chapter, going through it and literally calming the winds and the sea, like, I mean, I don't know about you, man, but you can't even make water stand still whenever you hit it in a freaking bottle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and stopping wind, like, we can find ways to mitigate it, but that's about it. And so, just kind of over the top, just kind of what I took from it, just overall was just kind of just a reflection of just the power that he has, I guess.
Yeah, just kind of really concrete evidence of exactly who he was.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you're saying, I could see that too. I think it's a great point, and I had a little bit of that takeaway too, and I saw a lot of that with the casting out of demons and the healing of everyone, and another big takeaway for me, kind of along those same lines, was just in every single one of those individuals, or most of those individuals that he healed, it was a very faith driven circumstance for me, right? And it was interesting because, like, the man with leprosy, he comes up to him and asks to be healed and says, if you're willing, you can. And Jesus says, I'm willing, and heals him, right? And it was based solely off of his faith. Like, you have the power to do this. I believe you do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you will, it can be done. And it was just abundant faith that was relevant, and
that makes a whole lot of sense. I say that because so me and my coach Justin, I reached out to him, and he dives into scripture quite a bit for himself too, and his family and everything that he's got going on, and we haven't touched base yet, but whenever I reached out to him about this specific chapter, I was like, hey, if you got a chance, if you don't mind, just like I want to get kind of your thoughts on it. And a little while later, he sent back Unwavering Faith, and we haven't had that full discussion yet. That's coming up here in a couple days, but But just hearing you say that, like I just connected all of that. It's like, oh, like that's the elephant in the room that I was completely missing.
I got you.
Because I read it. It's like, yeah, I mean, absolutely, he can calm the storm, right? Um, you got to have unwavering faith that he can do that. But then it's how you just gave me that perspective. It's like, oh, duh.
Well,
Like,
that's a good point though, because that brings into perspective too on the other side when they're on the ship. What does Jesus say to them?
you have little faith.
You have little faith. That makes a lot more sense too, because
Yeah.
it's just reiterating that point of the relevancy and the importance
Yeah.
of faith, and from that first verse 1 through, or I think verse 3 as well, I took away that one of the big things for me too, Jesus touched this man with leprosy.
Mm-hmm.
They were unclean, the lepers. They were sinful. There's a reason they had leprosy, right? It was they didn't have God's favor because of things they did in the past, and they were unclean individuals, and to me it just shows the magnitude of who he is and the power that he has with the touch, right?
I think that also signifies too, like he didn't surround himself with those that were strictly clean or meticulous with their things, or like, does that make sense?
It was those who needed him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't that
Like those that are acting perfect, or however you want to look at it, I guess.
well, there's another verse that I read not too long ago. I don't know if it was here or in Luke. It talks about the doctor, like a doctor isn't useful for people that are healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
The doctor is around the sick, the people that need him. And I mean, that's, yeah. So I agree.
guess
That's
that's
super,
the epitome of that. Yeah.
super relevant.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely, man.
Following, you got one you want to dive into?
No, go for it.
Following that point of faith into verse 6 through 12, when he's talking about the Roman officer and healing the servant of the Roman officer. And basically, the Roman officer reaches out to Jesus to heal his servant who's paralyzed and sick in bed. And Jesus says, yeah, I'll come do it. And the Roman officer sends another messenger and says, no, don't come here. I'm not worthy of you. But as I am an authoritative figure in the military, I say do something and the soldiers do something. I say do something and the slaves do something. And I know by that authoritative power and the faith that he had in Jesus and who Jesus was, if you just say the words or you just heal him from where you're at, you don't even have to be here. If you being who you are, it doesn't require you to come here and touch the servant or even be in my presence. I'm unworthy of that. So I ask you, just heal him.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus goes on to talk about how he hasn't seen that faith even in all of Israel, right? It's kind of insane the amount of faith that this guy has just out of the blue. And Jesus obliged. He healed him, the servant. And it's just kind of crazy because it goes on to say one of the big points that I put on here, because it's so easy to discriminate or almost take this Calvinistic mindset where it's like, oh, these are God's people. These are the ones that matter, and the relevancy of that specifically. But even diving into, I think, verse 11, and I tell you this, that many Gentiles will come from all over the world, from east and west, and sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob at the feast in the kingdom of heaven. But many Israelites, those for whom the kingdom was prepared, will be thrown into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So it reiterates about the faith is what matters. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter who you are, where you were born, what you've done in the past. The faith is what matters, right? That was huge for me because, I mean, answer this question for me. We talked about this, but I mean, my biggest holdup with coming to explore the Bible and explore my relationship with God and faith was that I've been a piece of crap in my life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So hearing that and seeing that, I mean, like it doesn't matter the things. What matters is where you're at now and what you believe in the faith and where you place that faith.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the posture of your heart, and
I couldn't have said that better. Yeah, agreed.
And I think it's again, I mean, having faith is something that will always be easier said than done, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's also where the opportunity therein lies, is having that faith and continuing to go through and build that relationship. And there's going to be times where we fall short in that, right? And we're going to learn a lot from those instances too. And we've already learned a lot in those instances throughout our lives. And, it's like, well, I need control of this situation, so I'm going to do everything I can. And though you may have made it through whatever that situation was, that also could have been, you could have stopped it short of what it could have been. Does that make sense?
It does.
Because you didn't have faith in the process or in him to get you through that. And so, again, easier said than done. It's just always keeping that in mind as you go through tough situations. And I don't know, man. I mean, it's just one of those things that just got to continually work on, and you will work on through this journey.
Yeah. I think one thing that comes to mind when you say that too is there's a lot of times when, I don't know, faith is easy when faith is your only option.
Yeah.
I'm finding that one out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think having faith, even in those times of gratitude, and having that right posture too, feels like something that's very important. What you said made me think of that.
Well, and that still ties into having grace with yourself.
Yeah. That's fair.
We freely, okay, maybe not freely, but we give it to so many individuals that we care about, maybe some that we don't necessarily care very much about, right? But we don't allow us that same grace and acceptance, and like, hey, like, I can take a step back and just like let it be what it is, and just have faith that this is going to work out how it's supposed to.
That's fair. Yeah, that really goes into loving your neighbor like yourself and yourself like your neighbor, kind of that conversation we had previously too.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that a lot.
So, and I mean, in having faith, obviously, within your relationship with God and Christ and everything, but, a lot of times in just the process itself, I feel like today there's a lot of people that lose sight in the fact of, like, not everything is instant gratification.
Yeah.
And though you can want it, however bad you can be anxious about it, you can lose sleep over it. I mean, if it's out of your control, it's out of your control. And so you got to have faith in that process and the things that you're doing. And if you need to take a step back and make a couple changes and then re-engage into whatever it is that you're doing, like, no factor, right? But, have faith in yourself, have faith in the process, and just don't lose energy and sleep over stuff that you can't control, because it ain't going to do nothing for you.
Yes. One thing that brings to mind for me, and one thing that's helped me a lot here recently is anxiety is one of those things that, I mean, I almost instantaneously, it takes me forever to pull it out of me and pull it out of myself, but I instantaneously feel better about whatever I'm anxious about when I have a conversation about it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to note that, like, that's what prayer is. Mm-hmm. Prayer is an open and intimate conversation with God about your anxieties. I mean, it talks to him, talks about it in Matthew 7 and other places as well where we've studied in Matthew, where take your problems to him. Mm-hmm. Ask, seek, knock. Like, the importance of prayer is just reiterated right there, where you take those things that you want or you need or whatever that weight is, and you give it to him. Mm-hmm. And you don't lose sight of being responsible for it, because free will is a very real thing, but also understanding that that if you're just living in it here by yourself, that weight is going to kill you in some form, stress and come out in dangerous coping mechanisms and ways. But actually going to God with the conversation and prayer, it allows you to have that faith, but also have the conversation and to ask questions. I mean, to put yourself out there. And I think people forget we can do that.
Yeah. I think it brings up like the whole vulnerability thing too. Like how willing are you to be vulnerable in situations and with
Lane, I'm a guy. I can't be vulnerable. The world eat me alive if I'm vulnerable.
Yeah, man. But I mean, shoot, maybe that's where your greatest opportunity is.
Amen.
I'm speaking to myself too.
Yeah,
I'm not just speaking to you or whoever's listening, right?
Yeah, I don't want to feel like up on a soapbox or something talking to people. No, I agree. I'm preaching to myself at the moment.
You know, as I continue to dive into this and continue progressing in this and you know, at work we have so many different leadership opportunities and opportunities to kind of really dive into these skills, right? Like it allows myself to continue, like continuously have like deep self-reflection. And it's just like, as you start becoming aware of all these different opportunities, then it's like, well, what have I been doing for so long? Just biding time, right? But it's also like, well, if you didn't know, I mean.
Well, in the grace side of things too, and I mean in the spirit of repentance.
Yeah.
I mean, a perspective that I had, not to cut you off, sorry.
No, you're good.
But in the spirit of repentance, I mean, repentance implies a need for a change, right? But also with the grace of having yourself, like we talk about it in personal development. I mean, you had to be there to go here.
Yeah, very
right?
true.
You had to walk that line. You had to fall short and realize you were falling short to understand that it's time for a change. And I think exploring these things in reflection and time in prayer and meditation, and like those runs we talk about where we ain't listening to the podcast and stuff like that, that's prime places to tear this apart and to see where you need to take this and where you need to go and to understand the grace and the faith and maybe take some time to place those things where they need to be placed.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was gonna ask you a question, but I completely lost it in my head.
I'm over here talking too much. My bad, brother. But I do have one more point that I drew out of here, and it was actually something I'd written in my notes section, and I'll give some context from personal life at first. I mean, this is not like a bragging point, but we've moved into a season of our life, at least for now, in this part of the year where we're okay financially, right? Finances and money is one of the biggest stresses in my life. Mm-hmm. I place so much weight on it, and we've moved to a place where like we're okay. And the other day I was looking at balances and saw things, and there's this giant wave of relief that washed over me. Mm-hmm. And I realized in that moment that's a relief that I don't get from anything else besides that money, that monetary side being in an okay spot, right? And it's not anything by any means great, but it's in an okay spot. We're okay for a little bit, right? Like, so my reflection in that is, why does that bring me that level of peace, but a relationship with God and placing my burdens on Him and my faith in Him, why doesn't it bring that same level of relief to me? Because the reason it is relevant, if you look at chapter 8 here, verses 19 and 20, then one of the teachers of religious law said to him, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." But Jesus replied, "Foxes have dens to live in. Birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place even to lay his head." And that's reiterating the point that you got to give up everything to follow Jesus. He doesn't have a home to go to. He didn't have all these worldly things. He didn't even have a place to lay his head.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got his faith, he's got his mission, he's got what he's doing. And then further reiterated out here in, I think it's verse 34, the point when Jesus had cast out the demons, and the whole town came out to meet Jesus, and they begged him to go away and leave them alone. It's a point of one, there was some things going on where they thought that Jesus had the power over the demons, so he could have been this demonic evil thing as well. There was some stipulation around that, but I think more than that too is man, God, a relationship with Christ was chasing me for a long time before I actually did anything. And the reason being is because I was like these people. I said, go away, leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want to have to be that. I didn't want to have to give up these worldly things. I didn't want to change fully away from the things that I was doing. And I found the comforts in the things like money and drinking and lust and all these things that I've struggled with before in my life, right? And not to make a long-winded thing or this huge point about this, but it reiterated that point, man. And I caught myself thinking that even more is like, why am I so at peace in this moment where money, this fleeing thing, this thing that I'm always chasing and pursuing, and it's always coming and going. It's uncertain. It's great some days, and then something goes wrong. Something as trivial as a part going out on a washing machine, and then I'm just sitting there like, holy crap, I got all this money I'm about to spend on something. Or Lane's car doesn't start one day in the driveway, and I'm like, oh, crap. Check engine light comes on, same thing, right? And,
yeah.
Or just hospital bills. We got a little one sitting in there that she's expensive. And same thing, man.
You don't say.
Yeah, and the minute you start to evaluate it, then that piece is gone. But everything in this book, and money's talked about more than anything in the Bible. Everything in this book says to not worry about those things and to place faith. And like being critical of myself, but like, how do I move from that place where it's so naturally, like it's such a natural thing for me to be humanistic about this and place all that faith in money and what's within my control, and I can try to make more money, I can get a better job, I can do this, I can take on more hours, whatever it is. Why is that so relevant whenever I could always spend more time in prayer? I could always spend more time in scripture, in faith, with people doing what we're doing, having these conversations. And that hit me, and honestly it made me very frustrated with myself.
I think it's still probably getting to you.
It is. It is. It's something that I've thought about for like all week.
I had two trains of thought. Whenever you're going through and talking about that, one, I think it's so easy to lose sight of like the eternal picture because it's not like we can't grasp that, right? Like it's just a thought that we have. Like it's more than a thought, but like you can't fully grasp your mind around that concept. Like something eternal. Like what does that actually look like versus like I can go buy this right now or I can have this in my account. And,
tangibility of in the hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
My other thought, and it goes a bit deeper in my opinion, is that we're going through and we recognize the flaws that we have. We know all the crappy things that we've done and continue to do potentially, right? I mean, nobody's perfect.
Sure.
Is that hesitation there because you're not giving yourself that grace or forgiveness that he will give you?
That could be very true. But because,
because that would hinder that relationship, right? Because that takes away from the faith that we're supposed to have.
It does. And I think whenever you look at it, as far as the grace and forgiveness side of it, I think being real honest with myself, like I've had such a self-centered, like I'm responsible for this life that I'm living, and it's it's my role, and maybe there is a plan, but my free will and my decisions affect me, and that's what I'm living in, and that's where I'm at, and that's what's the day to day. I mean, that's the tangibility in the hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've done such a good job of screwing up my priorities in life all along this way that now that I'm in a spot, I do think that I think grace and forgiveness of myself is something that's not on the menu in my mind still, and in that regard. But I also think, just like, man, as a man, like in a masculine sense, we all aspire to be leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Like optimistically, you want a promotion someday.
Mm-hmm.
I want promotion someday in our careers. You want a family to lead and teach and help the next generation of individuals. We're doing a podcast because we feel like we might be able to help some people. We're learning and helping ourselves in the process, but in some ways, with what we do with Next in Line, we're leaders.
Yeah.
And I mean, every sense of the word, that's what we're told to do. And with leadership comes this sense of I'm responsible for everything. So having faith in historically in life, just before we got into this point, has always seemed like a cop-out in some ways. And I'm just like not saying it is, but I'm just getting very real with you
Mm-hmm.
about how I used to think about this and approach it, and I think some of those roots still live in my mind, and that's why I've always got to be in control of things and always got to be like measurement. That's a good way to put it, I guess. Measurements and being able to have metrics, right? If I see this number in my bank account, I'm doing good. If I see this time frame for promotion, this level that I'm climbing, this pyramid, there's layers to it, it's measurable. I'm progressing. If I see us getting more views on YouTube or whatever, it's progressing, it's metrics, right?
But if you continually see the sin that you're giving out or committing, I guess more so, right? Then it kind of takes away from that metric that you're measuring yourself on.
And it does. And that's what I'm coming into in this season of my life more. And I think one of the most important things is a realization in all that,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can keep my eye on it maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't make it any less true, I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know I kind of went to left field on that deal, but
No, absolutely, man. I mean, it's all a process, and again, it's one of those things that will always be easier said than done. But it's also probably the most important decision that you can make.
yeah.
Because, I mean, having faith in unwavering faith in him and this relationship is what's going to get you to that next level. That's what's going to continue to build this relationship, have you going along that path, and at the end of the day, continue to be a bigger light to those that we're trying to help, right?
Yeah.
Maybe those that we're surrounding ourselves with, or maybe those that we aren't yet. I mean, the impacts that you can have just in that single decision will literally affect your eternity. So.
Yeah. And that came back full circle too when you were saying that too. I thought about, man, if I was on this boat out at sea in the middle of this storm, I'd probably be the one yelling the loudest. We're going to die. Save us. And that's maybe the question that needs to remain. Why do you have so little faith?
It's opportunity, man.
It's opportunity all day. I agree.
So, I mean, and I think, the storm and this was physical. It's also metaphorical for all the things that we have going on in our lives. So,
yeah. It is, certainly.
You have little faith.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, me and my flat bike tires. And oh. No,
So,
I guess 8 got a little deeper than we thought it was going to there, brother.
it's one of those things, dude. I mean,
Had little faith in how deep 8 was going to be.
It's one of those things, once you start getting some different perspectives and some actual discussion on it, you can start wrapping your mind around some points that stick out a little bit more, become more relatable, really. And so, yeah, dude. I mean, I think it's a reoccurring theme in all of this.
Yeah, I think Justin hit the nail on the head.
He did, and just his story alone is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that he had to practice just that. Maybe that's why that was just so recognizable to him. I'm not saying that, I haven't been through things and you haven't been through things. And I just think whenever you're put in situations where you don't have a choice but to practice unwavering faith, or you can just succumb to whatever it is that you're going through, it really highlights that, I guess, that opportunity.
That's fair.
So, that's cool,
well
man.
said.
It's cool. So, what else you got, brother?
Man, that kind of closes out 8 for me. I had another point in there and small things, but I think we really grabbed way more of the meat that was on the bone than any of these small little auxiliary things I kind of put some focus on that should have been focused on other areas,
Yeah.
Sure.
I
think 8 is one of those that I'm probably going to go back and immerse myself in a little bit deeper and spend some time there and ask myself some tough questions.
Yeah. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
I mean, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and making yourself at least ponder the difficult questions. That's how you grow. That's how you, that's where you find who you are and where those opportunities lie within yourself.
It's like these races and things like that, I guess.
That it is, man.
If you don't sign up for a North Texas Ultra or West Texas Ultra, you
I ain't gonna find out.
That's right.
No, I'm gonna. That'll be getting on the docket officially probably next week. So
good deal.
Get that sucker knocked out, and yeah, folks, if y'all got anything going on, reach out. Let us know. Let us know how your training is going. Let us know if you got any big events coming up. If you even need just help, just in your training in general. I'm no professional. Chance is no professional. But if we don't know the answer, I mean, we certainly know folks that do, and we're more than happy to just at least be in your corner rooting for you. Yeah.
No, I don't fully recommend my couch to 50K fueled by self-hatred. That's probably not the best beginner strategy to some of these races, but we're glad to help you. We joke about that, but guys, we were very, very novice in this just a few years ago, and we love helping people. And if there's something we can do to help you, if there's something we can do to support you more than anything, or just celebrate you. I mean, wins are wins, no matter if they're big or small. The little ones add up, and the little ones are the most important. They keep you going.
Yeah.
So
it's the little ones that get you there. So
yeah. Guys, if y'all got anything out of this, we'd also ask that y'all just share this show with somebody. The ways you do that, take a screenshot of what you're listening to, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. Throw that thing up on Instagram or Facebook. Let people know where you're getting your motivation. Tag us in it at Next in Line Development on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. We'd love to communicate with you there. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about what we're doing, or commentary, man, we're still learning this thing.
We are.
If you got anything you want to throw out there with us, hey, let us know on, probably best way to do it is comment on the video you're on, or man, throw us a DM on Instagram. Let's use Instagram.
Especially if you got some technical expertise.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
We'd like to pick your brain on a few different things. So
I think so.
Cool deal, man. Well, I enjoyed this one. That was a good one. I hope that y'all enjoyed it as well. And get on out there, folks. Go lead the way. And always be prepared for whatever it is.
Next in line.
Adios.